Welcome, everyone, to Living Consciously TV, coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado studio, also streaming live on YouTube Live and on Hangouts and at ConsciousEvolutionMedia.com. I'm your host and moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and our theme this evening is Why Do Bad Things Happen? Fantastic theme. I'm looking forward to it. Let me introduce you to our guest this evening. Her name is Simran Singh, and she is absolutely not new to this. Welcome to the show. She's been on the network before. We welcome you again.
Thank you. So wonderful to be here with all of you.
It's great to be with you as well. And then let me introduce you to the rest of our cast, beginning with, on the very left-hand side, Nina de Verderosa. She's joining us from the city where the lights never go out, and she doesn't go out either.
No, if I go out, then I'm going to let Las Vegas down, and I don't want to let
Las Vegas will go dark if you go out.
It's good to be here. Good to be here, Steve.
Awesome to have you. And right next to me is Susie Verdi, and she's joining us from, let me see, that city where nobody ever leaves it. Once they get into that city called Boulder, they never leave it again. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you.
They don't even come to Denver.
I know. So close, so far.
That's right. So I'm really excited about the theme. The theme is, again, why do bad things happen? And what would be really cool if we just go around the table and answer that question from our point of view. And let's make sure, I want to make sure that Simran is last, because this is her theme, and I just want to make sure that she has the last say. So who wants to go first?
Oh, I don't mind. I always like to go first. You know me.
That's
bad
right.
things. Hey, Steve,
Why?
you know me. Now, wait a minute, Steve. You're asking me a question that I'm one of the most positive people you've probably ever met and will ever meet. So I never think of bad things happening. I think things happen for a reason. You can have the choice of making them bad or correcting them or learning by them. I think bad things you can learn by, just like good things you can learn by. But there's not really bad things. It's you make it bad or it rubs you the wrong way. So I'm a little bit on the positive side that there are no bad things. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. Thank you. It was awesome. How about you, Susie?
Well, I think that bad things it's really a poor way that sometimes we find to describe incredible things that are coming our way. They're just forcing us to stretch a little more and to understand things from a different perspective. And then sometimes we're in our comfort zone and we wouldn't go through a certain learning if it is that we were just knowing exactly what to do and almost like coming from the automated space that most people live life, you know. So I believe that sometimes things that are particularly difficult for us, they really throw us into a space of not knowing, and then we call them difficult. But then once we learned the lesson, they somehow become easy. So I think they're very, very important in our path. I actually look at the bad things that happened to me in the past and I think they were the best. They really made me grow, you know. I wouldn't be here without them. So I learned to love them. I really did.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Susie. So when I first saw the theme, what came to me is, so who am I to even judge what's good or bad? So, you know, how can I answer this question? Why do bad things happen? So that's the first thing that came to me. And the second thing that came to me is, well, as far as I can tell, for me, that every time I see, in this context, bad things as a breakdown. So every time we're experiencing a breakdown, I'm actually now welcoming it, and the bigger it is, the better it is, because the more I will learn and the more I will grow, just like the two of you before me have, I think, said that. So that what was happening for me, and now we'll turn it over to our guest, Simran.
Well, it seems we're all in alignment, so I guess the show's over.
We're done? Okay.
That's not why we're having this conversation, is it? Because I think a lot of people might be looking at what's going on in the world, and they might want to call some of the things that are bad. They might want to call a shooting of 9 people at a church in South Carolina as bad, or what's going on with ISIS, or what's going on economically, or in the healthcare system. And what I want individuals to understand is, what if there really was a gift or a bigger picture, even in these types of situations? What if they were to open up something further? Because we have a opening of polarities right now. There's a masculine and a feminine that is on either end of the spectrum, and it is necessary for that feminine polarity to really surge upward, because it is that masculine force that has been so dominant. And I think just the symbolism by there being 3, glorious goddesses on the screen.
Oh my God. Where does that put me? Okay.
Well, but it illustrates, too, kind of where that polarity is, that there's a need to receive what's happening. Chaos is never, and change are never something that are here to make things worse. They are here to birth something new. And so the reason that I chose the theme of why do bad things happen was to really deepen and further this conversation, so people could maybe see the light in even the darkest moments of history or what's going on right now, because it is in those darkest moments that something new is actually born and something new actually thrives. And we're at a turning point, or a turning point in our history, where everything old and that was of a solid structure that was too conforming has to crumble in order for something more organic and divine and flowing and uniting and collaborating to come together. And it is platforms like these that really illustrate that so beautifully, because there's so many voices that come through, and it is that voice of positivity, and that voice of realism, and that voice of optimism, and that voice that's willing to say even the shadow and the dark is beautiful and divine and of good cause. And so I'm delighted that we can even dive into this conversation and also help people deepen their feelings, their emotions, their awareness of what's taking place in the world, to understand that our humanity rests in those places. And unless we're willing to see them, feel them, and acknowledge them, we can't really move beyond them. We will stay entrapped in our own chaos.
I think some people, when they look at something bad, that to them it's bad, to somebody else it might not be bad. So I think clarifying to other people to actually look deeper into what the picture they see that is bad, and looking at that picture, and maybe we can help them look at that picture in a different way, because as you were saying, it's not always bad. It's actually giving you a message, but we're just looking at it as being not agreeable to what we're thinking or what we're doing or how we perceive it. So I think sometimes, if we can look at something at a broader aspect and understand it, as you were mentioning, all the dreadful things that are happening in this world. And you talk about the shooting of the church, when they went in there and this young man shot all these people in the church. And you look at that picture afterwards, and you look at all those people turning around and forgiving this guy. So they were looking at a bigger picture. They were looking at a better picture, a bigger picture, rather than sort of crying on it and being, of course they cried as well, but that they gave that beautiful entourage of what they thought and what they felt and what they wanted to bring out there, which made this thing not as bad as it really was, though it was really, really bad. But at the same time, they put another picture on it, and I think that's what we're trying to give people, that things aren't really as bad as we think they are.
I agree.
Yeah, I also think that that's the difference when we understand something from a personal perspective to a transpersonal perspective. And so if it is that, something like very sad, like a shooting takes place, it is obvious that there's a lot of suffering. It's obvious that a lot of people will lose their family members, their loved ones, families will be destroyed. It is true. And there's a lot of sad things that are happening in our planet these days. But it's also true that from a transpersonal perspective, we are confronted with a situation that is really moving us to think perhaps less from our individual sort of, ego space, and more like, what is it that we can do to serve, maybe coming out of our little worlds, maybe being a bit more compassionate, maybe being able to forgive more, maybe being able to live a life that has more meaning. Because if something huge like this happens to us, we're not so likely to be attached to, our car or our house or maybe a career success. It's almost like when you come back from war and you have nothing, you start to realize that basic relations, the quality of just connecting to people from a heart-to-heart space is actually extremely important. And maybe what's happening in the world like today is that, especially here in countries like, where we live now, we're so surrounded by stuff, by comfort. We're so busy with our lives and, little universes that, something that could be seen as tremendously bad could also hide this tremendous treasure of collective commotion that almost like catapults us to a different space of, okay, let's get together, let's do something about it, let's be more human.
It's a shame that something bad, which seems to always happen, bring us together, which should be something good. It would be much better.
I am reminded. I'm reminded now of 9/11. When 9/11 happened, the entire nation got together, and we were all one all of a sudden, and it didn't last very long. So why is that? What is it that what is this energy that we are coming in and out of? That and I've said this before, that why is it that we only act really nicely at Christmas time? Everybody seems to have a beautiful act at Christmas, and everybody's giving gifts to everybody, and everybody's forgiving and nice, and
well, hopefully they are. You can also have problems at Christmas.
But why can't we do that every day? Why do we need a Christmas?
Why do we need anything as an excuse to be nice?
To be that way.
Yeah, but why do we need
exactly.
anything? Why do we need anything? Why can't we just kind of try to be naturally nice? Or try? See, I have a philosophy out there that if I don't get on with somebody, to me that is not a bad person. I don't think bad about them. I don't think that, it's just that the person and I don't get on. We don't see eye to eye, and I'm just the same as they are. They don't see eye to eye with me. It's just that that's how it is. You don't have to. That doesn't have to be a bad person, a horrible person. You just don't communicate. You just don't get on, and let them go on their way. You go on your way, and try to communicate with the people that you get on with, and that you can actually thrive, and you can make something of that can be really, really good, rather than sort of going off people and talking badly about people. I don't think it's necessary to talk badly about people. You don't get on with them, leave them alone.
I think there's also something being asked of us as each of these things happen, and it's interesting that you brought up, Steve, about 9/11 and now this, and if we look at how our human journey is, we have various experiences that happen and keep showing up in our life to take us somewhere, to take us back inside, to take us back to personal growth, to take us back to wounds or emotions or feelings that we won't feel. And the world also has a soul. It has a history that we are here to recognize and go back to and understand and to heal. And so as much as we are here to move out into the world and to connect and to show our oneness and to be compassionate to those outside, I don't know how deepening and sustaining it will be unless we each individually say and look at each occurrence and discover, where is that inside of me? What is that calling for within me that needs to have more compassion and to love? Because when we really work on ourselves, we really find those nuggets of pain and wounds and trauma that are in ourselves, we start to discover that the very hate that showed up outside of us may be a nugget of hate that rests inside of us. And I'm like you. I'm one of those people that's ultra positive all of the time. I can find the light in just about anything that is out there. But I also know that we have to embrace those places that are very dark and be willing to find them in ourselves in order to open up that compassion and open up the heart a little more to really attain that oneness. And so many people want to shy away from feeling those feelings and want to push away from seeing anything that they want to call bad. Even though, like you, I agree, there's no bad or good, they're just experiences.
But it's great to address it, and you're right, address it. Don't be afraid of yourself. Because you know yourself, you know how you react, you know what you want to do. And if you feel you've got something bad in there, address it, but don't address it in a bad way. Try to bring it out and understand it and sort it out so that it's no longer bad within you or outside of you.
You know, one thing that I wanted to say about also going back to Steve's comment on Christmas, Ken Wilber, most people would know him, a very famous philosopher, neighbor here in Denver, before in Boulder. But anyways, he talks about the difference between states and stages of development of consciousness. And then he says, a lot of people think that because they had a state of, some sort of, breakthrough kind of state, momentum in which, one realizes like her oneness with the whole, then that's it. That it should naturally continue as part of one's consciousness. But then what happens is it falls apart. Maybe not, if not next day, but next week or next month, because it hasn't been integrated in one's level of consciousness. So the integration is as important or more important than just, the commotion. The commotion opens, cracks up. But then the work that one needs to do, as Simran was also saying, in terms of how it is that we're integrating our shadow, how it is that we really kind of making our own meaning of being in oneness with the whole. Like in the example of Christmas, what kind of forgiveness process are we doing with our mom? Or the sibling that we haven't talked or for many years, or even like someone that we don't like or doesn't like us, and we can be in peace with that. So those are also incredible opportunities for growth, and they're very uncomfortable. They can be very uncomfortable if you have like this huge problem with, say, your neighbor. But then that's also an opportunity for growth. So at the end of the day, it's all wonderful, isn't it?
Well, I think what you're talking
it's all
about
pushing us.
well, it's all forgiveness. It's a lot of it is forgiving, and that is very simple. It's very easy to forgive someone. And when you forgive someone, you have no idea how you're forgiving yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
When you forgive someone, you've relieved yourself, and it's like, whew, I've forgiven them. Well, now I feel good. That's how it works.
Yes, and that ultimate one to forgive is the self, because I think that's the one that most people forget, is we work so hard to forgive everything outside, but we never really look at forgiving the self, and that even means, the part of me that I didn't like, or the part of me that made the mistake, or the part of me that, acts up sometime, or gets angry sometimes, or those things. But to me, it's all a romance. The entire journey of the soul is such an incredible romance that it is the lover and beloved acting itself out inside of each one of us.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
So let me just run this by you. What I'm hearing between the lines, because I've been listening very attentively. What I'm reading between the lines is that every one of these occurrences that happens outside of us, like in the news is full of bad stuff, and people get upset over it, and then people feel helpless because they can't do anything about it. And the news media, of course, keeps repeating it all day, and depending on the size of the occurrence, it could be days, it could be weeks, whatever. And it even gets people more and more upset. So what I'm hearing is that all of these occurrences really should be driving everybody within themselves. Because the only thing we have really control over, we have no control over what happened. We have no control over how the news is presenting it. But we do have control over ourselves to become a better human being. Is that close?
Absolutely.
When you said the word control, I would say choice rather than control, because, it's almost like we always have the choice. And so either we control it or not, I have no idea. I would say that every time we try to control anything, we're kind of cutting some slack for frustration, because truth is we're always learning each day, and we fall and we stand up and we fall, and then you know what, and then you can't forgive so well as you did last week, and you still feel those grudges inside, but then you can always choose to do something different. And maybe the call is the level of consciousness that we are moving towards, and then we are realizing the kinds of choices that we're able to make at each moment. Maybe we're called to make a choice that we would not have made maybe a couple of years before, because we hadn't integrated parts of ourselves that would allow us to be in a certain space, to make that kind of choice, and to forgive from an even higher level. Would you agree with me? What do you think?
Buddha said life is suffering, and so many people think that we make a choice to suffer, or if they take the stance about creating the reality as we created something, we chose to suffer. And the way I look at it is, the gift is actually the suffering. The choice is the love, the forgiveness, the compassion, the oneness. Like you said, it is the choice to move into a different direction, or take a different action, or move inside rather than outside, and really look at where we are reflecting in that and responding in that, or how we are reacting from that position. And so to me, every event that happens outside of us, whether it's meeting another person or seeing something on TV, is an opportunity to go back and recalibrate the mental body, the emotional body, the physical body, so that we really integrate within ourselves a sense of completion and oneness, rather than thinking, let me first run out and do something. Because I think when we integrate within ourselves all of that, rather than just action because we feel like we need to do something, we come from a place of wholeness where it's inspired. And that inspiration comes from a much deeper divine place than what our mental bodies that have thought up all of these problems in the first place has come from.
What about people that are uncomfortable with themselves as of the obesity and overweight that we seem to be traveling through the world, not only America, it's traveling through the world everywhere. What is going on with these people of not really liking themselves, or they're disgusted with themselves, or are they happy that they're kind of how they are? Because it seems like a lot of people are quite happy as to being in the position they're in, as being overweight. They don't care anymore. Why don't they feel bad about themselves, or how do we help these people?
Well, in my own truth, I don't believe there really is anything to save, fix, or heal. To me, if we are living in a state of perfection, it all is as it is. It is all for a sake of awareness. If we look at someone that is obese or overweight, what's really going on there, to me, are one of two things. Either they have built a body of protection around themselves to protect them emotionally from what they're experiencing outside, so they have to build that body. The other place that it shows up is they feel so small or incapable of really standing in their power that they create a size larger to feel more powerful. And I don't know that it's necessarily the size that matters. I think people can feel good about themselves whatever size they are.
Of course, yes.
But if there's any inkling or thought at any moment to change, or any sense of feeling bad in any second, then there's a deeper work there. And I think that's sometimes what people want to overlook, and they either medicate or they feed through some other addiction or some other method that doesn't let them really address the problem. And I hate to keep saying problem, because there really is no problem, but address the issue that perhaps their soul or their human self really wants to address, for them to step more into their power.
And it's something that they seem to have got hold of them, and they've got to try to let that go, and they've got to try to, I always say, get over that hump of feeling that insecure feeling, and feeling that maybe they're not wanted, and they start feeling bad about themselves, because that's when they start really feeling bad. But it's not really bad, it's more of an insecure thing, and just sort of get over that little hump, you know, that you're just the same as anybody else, exactly the same, it doesn't matter.
And people too thin. Okay. People that are too thin are also insecure. So, you know, it really is about where we are in our own psyche.
Yes.
I would just add also.
These experts. So we have all these. Hang on, time out for a second. We have all these experts talking about stuff, and guess what? There is someone among us here that used to be 60 pounds over. So if none of you have been 60 pounds overweight before, then you may not be completely qualified to have this conversation right now.
Well, that's me.
So
then.
let me, yeah. So let me just say this. So when I was 60 pounds overweight, I cannot say that I wasn't aware of it. I was aware of it. Matter of fact, every minute of my life, I was aware of it, but I was too chicken shit to do something about it. Like there was nothing out there that called me to be different until I realized that, guess what?
What?
I am now diabetic, and if I had to be like scared. Something had to happen for me. I'm just speaking personally. I don't know about anybody else. But what got my butt moving is I was diagnosed with diabetes, and once I knew that, I said, wait a minute. That means I'm going to have to be on drugs for the rest of my life, and I dislike drugs very much, and that I could have all kinds of complications like losing my leg, dying sooner, and I don't want any of that stuff. So I said, guess what? This is like the lion. The lion just had a big roar, and I all of a sudden paid attention. So I don't know how unique I am in this in describing this situation with other people that are overweight, but I feel that at some point everybody will get a lion's roar, and they'll even listen or they don't.
How hard do you think it's going to be for you to keep this weight off and to keep yourself down, Steve? Would that be because diabetes might come back? Because I understand you actually got over the whole diabetes thing.
Yeah, it's not even about that anymore. I in the last 2 years, I developed so many new behaviors and so many new ways of being and appreciating what I've done that it's not an issue anymore.
Yeah. So you feel really good.
I don't have to try. I don't have to. I don't have to worry about the whole thing falling apart. I know exactly who I am now in terms of my weight and what I have to do and what things that I basically cannot have. Like I just know, and I don't do it. It's easy. It's easy to say no.
But it's not really about even weight. This is just an example. The weight is another example of, see, it took something to happen to have the change take place. And that's what these world events are showing us. It takes something big to happen. And for different people, it's going to be different things. But there will be something that feels so bad or so alarming that that's what's going to make the change. So it doesn't matter whether it's about
weight. It doesn't matter if
weight.
No, it doesn't. I just brought it up as an example because I was just having this conversation the other day. It's that we've been doing this network for over 10 years, and we have failed miserably in terms of monetizing this network. Well, it dawned on me a while back that the reason we have failed at monetizing this network, you know why? It's because most people don't need consciousness. They're just fine, just the way they are.
Can I make a point here? I just wanted to say something.
Yes.
What I was going to compliment in what everybody else said, which I totally agree, is that I think the obesity phenomena is linked with our lack of connection with the earth, with the cycles of nature, with our bodies, with what it means to eat healthy, to eat slow, to eat good, to know what we are putting inside of ourselves, not only through the mouth, but through our eyes and ears as well. And so I just would like to make a connection between consciousness and food here. It's the same thing. So, if it is that we don't think that there is a difference between a burger or something that is, organic and really nice produced, and the quality of qi and the live element that we're bringing into our bodies. If we think that there's no difference whatsoever, then obviously, and that we're chewing or not chewing, just sort of getting it inside, and so there's a big disrespect for the divine beings that we are, the perfect body that we have, the ability that we have to be perfectly healthy and radiant and shiny and together with life around us. So there's a disconnection there. There's a lack of consciousness, and a lot of people think that talking about healthy, slow eating is some sort of woo-woo idea. There's the amount of disconnection is huge. In the same way, people think that they don't need consciousness because basically they think that life is probably about some linear process that gets repeated every day, and once you learn, right? I mean, the process, like a dog, like some sort of trained animal, you just keep on your life on those lines, and guess what? You're going to be happy. The media tells you you're going to be happy. Just follow this line. And so big breakthroughs and big breakdowns, going back to our initial theme, are so important because all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I believed that I was going to be happy, and then this horrible thing happened, and then I'm not happy anymore. So then you actually need consciousness. So I believe that people do need consciousness, Steve, but they do need consciousness when their model of the world gets destroyed somehow, and so that's why it's important that somehow bad things happen, because they are our biggest ally on destroying the Maya, that somehow we can be forever happy, and that we don't need this woo-woo stuff called consciousness.
I didn't mean to say, Susie, that people don't need consciousness, because of course I 100% believe that everybody needs consciousness. Matter of fact, it's the only way out of Dodge. But here's the thing. What I meant to say, or maybe a better way to say it, is people don't support this network and don't buy whatever it is that we sell like they buy Coke or Pepsi. Or a hamburger from McDonald's, There, it's just no problem. We need that stuff, right? And I'm here to say that you don't need the Coke. You don't need the Pepsi. You know why? Because I've done it. I don't need it. I know I don't need it. Matter of fact, not only do I not need it, it's very bad for me. Mm-hmm. And so here it is. I am the CEO of a consciousness network, and it was in my face that I'm completely out of integrity with what I'm doing and with the network by being 60 pounds overweight. How's that?
But you corrected that, Steve, though. So you're sort of back in the
Yes, I have corrected it, but I just want to demonstrate that no one is exempt. And there are all these gurus out there that talk like they are perfect.
Well, I know one thing. I'm not perfect. I know that. I know I'm not perfect. I try to be perfect.
And they, of course, all walk the talk.
I think the new trend of consciousness is vulnerability. It's to just be who you are, but walk with integrity. And what I see you doing, Steve, is you really try to walk your talk and follow a path of integrity. And you said, how can I be killing myself, my body, with soda or whatever, and be talking about some sort of theory of consciousness or evolution, because it's all interlinked.
I all of a sudden felt like I sound like a politician. I talk one thing and do something completely.
Oh, Steve, how could you do that? No, but you've proved it, Steve, and I think you've proved it with many, many people you've had on the show, and now you've proved it, letting people know that you've actually been very conscious of what was going on with you, but you really weren't conscious until you were diagnosed with having this problem, with this diabetes, until
well, I was conscious about other things, but not this thing.
Yeah. There you go. But I think we get into a rut. I think a lot of people get into a rut and then they turn around and say, "Oh, I don't care, and it doesn't matter." Your body really does matter, and I think your every day of when you go to bed and when you go to sleep, to try to have a clear, nice mind to go to sleep with, and not to be angry or aggravated. There's so many things to be conscious about 24 hours a day that we only think it's just a short time here and a short time there, and it's not. It's what you do the whole day, how you do it, what you do it, your intentions. What are your intentions? This all is all to do with you, within your body, within you, and it has nothing to do with anybody else, nothing. So it's, if you feel bad, try to correct it. Why do I feel bad? Address it to yourself. Don't ask somebody else. They might make you feel worse.
I'd love to go back to what you were talking about, Steve, in regard to the network and the funding and the money. Because I think that's a big issue that affects a lot of individuals, whether they're in the inspiration field, motivation field, spiritual, metaphysical. They come up against that. I know that I did as well with 1111 magazine. And as I really delved into why that is the situation that it is, it became clear to me that we're in a world that's changing. And the systems that are in place are not working. And that includes the system of money, the system of banking, the level of control that's in there. If we look at what's going on in Greece right now, it just shows another system crumbling. So why would it be that those people that are purporting the ideas of consciousness and holistic living and health and well-being are not being supported monetarily? Because we are the very examples of a new economy that is to rise. We're not going to go from money to no money overnight, but this world is going to head in a direction where it moves to a place of exchange rather than the idea of money and the level of control that money has had. And it's going to take those that are more conscious to be willing to say, there's another way. There's a simplistic way. There's a collaborative way. There's a creative way. There's something that is more necessary than filling our bank accounts, and that means being fulfilled. And that's a different thing. And when we really start to operate in that way and co-create and collaborate in that way, we find out that everyone is served. It doesn't mean we go into excess, because our minds want to have everything under the sun, because that's what's been sold to us and marketed us. But I have found that when we show up and when we create and when we collaborate and we're doing it with a pure heart, we do have everything that is required. And that's where we find not only our needs are met, but we find our heart and soul is met. And so I think that what you're doing on this network and what many people are doing in the realms of their holistic work or wellness work that they're putting out into the world, if they can keep it more about fulfilling themselves and fulfilling what really drives their heart and soul and opening to the people that they can connect with that are in the same integrity, they will all find that they do get what their own needs met.
Well, you're right on the money with doing without money. You are right on the money there. And this is where we're heading to. We're actually heading to not currency at all. We're heading to another way, but it's going to take time. It will happen in my time, your time maybe, but that's where we're heading. And you're right. Are we ready for that change? Are we aware of that change? I think we're just starting that, but we've had that change since the beginning of time. We just haven't noticed how we've progressed. We haven't noticed how far we've got. We only look at where we are. We don't notice what's happening. But you are right on the money. Do without currency. Absolutely.
I personally think, I agree totally with the new currency, and I think that's, there's definitely a new trend in the next years that will force us to change, because the economy as it is fated to collapse, is not self-sustaining. It really is not. We want to go back to the year 50s, 60s when there were big fortunes and people were accumulating money. And what's happening now is, it's in Greece, but it's also in other parts of Europe. It was in the United States. It is in Brazil right now. It's everywhere. It's really everywhere.
Everywhere.
Exactly. And so, but one thing that I also would like, a point that I would also like to make that I feel very strongly about, is that we as communicators, we need to, our challenge is to really offer messages that are tailored to the level of consciousness of who is listening to us. And because a lot of people have a perception that, you know, spirituality is something that has no practical application, or that is something a little bit like, you know, exotic, you know, from India or whatever, you know, you have to meditate and you can't have a normal life. But you know, I think the challenge is also to address in a very direct, heartfelt, practical way people that are yearning for help, because as this economy collapses, a lot of people are getting desperate because their model of the world was that of the past. They identified with that. That was their whole world. And then as we're changing so quickly and people are going bankrupt and, you know, fortunes are disappearing from one day to the other, you know, people are really needing to develop some sort of real capacity to connect with something more meaningful. Does that make sense? So I'm not talking...
That's because people don't like change. Everybody's very, you know, they're very unconscious about change. You know, we change every single day. We're changing every
exactly.
day.
And to make it feel like normal and good, and to sort of help people to navigate that, you know, that whole sort of difficult scenario, holding on to something that makes sense to them. It seems to be like the new religion, for instance. I believe that people are moving out of religion and towards a sense of more, you know, a lot of people would say I'm very spiritual, but I'm not religious. Does that make sense?
The young people are doing that, yes, absolutely.
Exactly. Yes, because they can't be boxed anymore.
You mentioned that in the 60s and 40s, 60s, whenever it was, that there was more money around. There's more money, there's more millionaires now than there ever was.
Yeah.
This is what the problem is with the currency and with the money, is you've got too many people with all the money. You're not willing to spend it, because if you don't spend money, you don't have circulation. If you don't have circulation, you have all these gaps, and then you have all the poor people coming along that don't have enough money to live on, and so it's not circulating. The world has to circulate. If it's not circulating, you come to a brick wall, because there's no money out there. But people are not. But you've got more wealthy people now than you've ever had.
Do you know that the metaphysical equivalent for money is relationship? And so the next best exchange that we can have besides money will now be time. That means presence. The best thing that we can do is exactly what you said, Susie. We have to meet people where they are. We have to meet them in their chaos. We have to meet them in their frenzy. We have to be the models and the examples. This world does not need gurus anymore, nor does it need teachers. It needs examples of people willing to live a different way. And that means willing to illustrate presence with one another, hearing one another, seeing one another, acknowledging one another, willing to say, you know what, I'd like to trade this service for your service. I'd like to exchange this time for your amount of time. Starting to develop new ideas about currency rather than sticking to the old models of something that is not going to last. And that means that identities have to crack. And that means what we look at as wealthy has to change. So there is a lot of change happening. And who wants a bunch of change, right? A bunch of change in their pocket? If we listen to the language, we're telling ourselves what to do. And it is because we are here to be with one another. We're moving too fast that people aren't even present to their own children, their own parents, their own siblings. They're not present in their jobs. They're not present with their coworkers. It's more about how productive we can be. How much more can we create? Rather than really understanding, it's about relationship. It's about knowing you and understanding you and seeing you. The divinity that you're expressing as and the divinity that I'm expressing as. And we don't have to say it in those words for people that aren't ready for spirituality, but we can model the example of presence by illustrating something that creates a shift because someone feels seen. There's something that happens when they really get heard, and all of a sudden they stop. Time stops, because when you're in the present, there is no time.
Yeah, that's true, and we've proved that on this show all the time. So let me just put it into another different context. So, from my point of view, what would make me happy in the world if I could experience and see everybody in the world doing what makes their heart sing, and if I could support everybody in my sphere of influence making sure that they can do what makes their heart sing. Because if people do what makes their heart sings, everything seems to just work out. There's no need for $100 million because you can't buy it.
Silence.
What if it's not even about having that need to make the shift in other people? I think we as spiritual people or as individuals that want to empower others, we have to let go of our attachment to other people changing, to anything.
No, I didn't mean
rather,
it that way. I didn't mean it that way. What I meant is that if you asked me, of course you didn't ask me, but if you asked me what would make Steve happy in the world,
all right, Steve, what would make you happy?
What would make me happy? I just said it to you. So instead of seeing what I see on television, which is all awful stuff, I would rather see everybody doing what they love to do and everybody making a living from what it is that makes their heart sing. The reason that they really came here, because I'm speaking from my I went through whatever I went through to do what I love to do, and you experiencing what I love to do right now. This is my passion. Having these meaningful conversations, having conversations that touch, move, and inspire people is what I came here to accomplish. And I came from an experience, a beginning of my experience, where I was scared to death speaking in front of people. Like 20 years ago, I couldn't even do this. I wouldn't even be willing to go onto a show like this. There's no way. You couldn't drag me. You couldn't put a gun to my head. I wouldn't do it because I was scared.
You know, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, what I was going to say is I just would like to just reflect a little bit in what you said. First of all, I would like to say that what you're doing is invaluable. And I believe the Internet's going to be the next big democratic way of people connecting, because, you know, it doesn't depend on huge amounts of money for us to get together, for instance, and have this conversation and share it to thousands around the world. And this is in itself a miracle. It would be impossible 10 years ago. We would have to have some sort of sponsor.
So I was doing it.
It would be controlling.
What are you talking about, Susie? I was doing it 10 years ago. What are you talking about?
No, what I'm talking about is commercial TV's faded to you know, either disappear with the years, because communication is democratic, free communication is becoming more and more available. And so maybe what was happening with regards to your initiative, it was because you were a herald. 10 years ago, people didn't know that that kind of technology existed, and they didn't have, you know, iPhones that they could watch on the train or, you know, at home. Or so now it's much easier for people to have access to content like this, whereas 10 years ago it was really something so new. We only thought of commercial TV as a way to actually have a voice in the world. So that's why I think what you're doing is invaluable. And also, just to build up on, you said, you know, your dream is that everybody could do what they love. And, you know, because we're sort of moving towards this freedom of expression, people might feel freer to explore ways in which they could be doing things that are more meaningful to their lives. And perhaps in some cases they have to keep a day job for whatever reason, but it doesn't mean that they need to identify themselves with what they do, with who they are, because, you know, there's more to it, you know. And sometimes we can even like do a little bit of karma yoga and do whatever we're doing with the right consciousness, you know, and then we can resignify something that could be very hard or boring or full of routine, and say, well, you know, I'm doing this and I'm doing something else that fills my soul. So, you know, perhaps I'm also thinking of people that are watching us and they might not have the luck to be you or one of us who are doing it more full time. But, you know, we can all have a meaningful existence if it is that we choose to apply simple things into our daily lives.
Well, but Susie, I'm not lucky doing this. I'm doing it because I choose to do it.
Yeah,
You know,
that's an interesting concept.
and there has been times when I hardly came up with the money to pay my internet bill so that I can have this on. But I somehow magically came up with it, and somehow it occurred. And you know, nobody sees that. Nobody cares, and that's fine. And all I'm saying is that right now, because the network doesn't support me, I'll go elsewhere. I don't stop the network. That would be foolish.
No, Steve,
I continue to do this because this is my passion. So I'll go outside and do the things that other people do, which is 90+% of the people out there are doing work that they hate. They hate to get up in the morning and go to work because that's not their passion. They're doing it because they have to pay rent, they have to buy groceries,
Right.
they have to feed their kids, they have to pay bills. You know the story, blah, 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 blah. But guess what? I'm no different. Just because I do a conscious network, that doesn't mean that money just kind of flows in here because I'm doing these shows. It does not. And so I go out there and do that, but I have a different attitude now than I ever had before, which is, well, yeah, I'm going out there, but I'm not going out there in the world with the attitude that I hate to get up in the morning and I hate to do what I do. Guess what? All the things that I've learned in the last 10 years doing this, I'm taking to work with me every day and use it and implement it. And I'm having a much heck of a time, a much better time, because now I'm realizing, well, I'm not just sitting in front of a microphone and in front of a camera and talking about this stuff. I'm actually doing it out there in the world. I'm implementing the notions, the ideas, the tips, the things that you ladies have been talking about in the entire show. I'm implementing that out in the world, and I remind myself every
But Steve,
moment.
I believe that this is ultimately the point. This is ultimately the point, to, you know, to be able to implement in our lives something that we're learning from wisdom, from all these wonderful exchanges. And you know, it's not about, you know, having a special life. It's making your life special by implementing. You know?
Steve is making it work. He's making it work. He's taking your.
I have a special.
You're actually telling me,
I have a
Steve.
special life. You know why? Because I am special.
You are special.
And I'm the only one that can create it for me. Nobody's
Yes.
going to create it for me.
And I think that's
Creating
the
it for me.
message. Isn't that the message, Steve, that we're giving out there to all the listeners and whoever's out there, and even just to all of us, of that we have our own selves to control and to do what we want with, and you've taken something, and now you're working more of an everyday, but you're making that really nice. You're taking all what you learned and you're bringing it into it, and now it's not a bore. It's now great. You're now excited to do what you're doing, and you've taken.
And vice versa. The things that I'm experiencing out there in the world, which is the good, bad, and the ugly, I'm bringing it in here because it's real. It's real.
It is real, and you're letting everybody know that they can actually have a life like yours. They can get up in the morning and go to work and feel great.
They can have whatever life they want.
And
Everybody can have whatever they want.
Yeah, but you came to the logical side of it, Steve.
I think our guest wants to say something.
What would you like to say?
I ultimately believe we all teach what we need to learn. And the beauty of that is, and I'm speaking for myself, because when I began all of my work about 10 years ago, I knew that the only one that I really was doing it for was for me. So what if there's no one else here? There's no one to fix, save, or heal. There's nothing to do except fulfill yourself. And as you move through creating whatever it is that makes you happy, you also deconstruct all the beliefs and ideas that limit you from being the full power of who you are. I think we begin as human. We begin with the beliefs that we are taught, that we're shown, and we slowly and steadily deconstruct that and move out of that. And as we do that, we start to realize more about consciousness and how we can grow and how we can create. And so then we start to determine, I can either create in the 3D reality as human, I can work hard, or I can work smart. And that means I put in inspired action, but I create in a different dimension. I start to also know that I can sit and I can imagine and I can dream. And I can attract to myself if I stay in the imaginal realm. Is that not what Disney showed us? Is that not what Einstein told us? Part of our work is to understand that we work too hard and that we expect too much from a 3D brain. We have to move outside of even our own identities to understand that what we want to create as infinite possibility is right within our grasp, but it's outside of our heads. It is actually in the world around us that is the rest of us, because we're each God sparks, but we have to understand that we are those God sparks and start living from that place. And so what you're doing, Steve, is incredible, because you have created every step of the way, everything that you've wanted to create. And every single block that you have, or any viewer is having at this time, it is because that is a belief system and a block that they're still waiting to deconstruct. And we all have them. That is the beauty of this experience, because we are not on the journey, we are the journey. We are experiencing itself.
Absolutely. What would you like to give to our audience out there? Something, because you talked about the block. What would be something that you could really tell them that how they could get through a block they have, or something that they can do, like Steve or yourself or all of us? But how could you put that out there to our audience, and what would be a good thing for them to start with?
Well, our language betrays us. So the thing that we keep talking about is the very belief system that we hold. And if we have this idea that I can't be supported because I'm in this type of work, or I'm not supported and I have to go out and get another job and I have to work a job that I hate just in order to do what I love, that is a belief that came from somewhere. But what if we shifted that belief? And some of that is positivity, some of that is fake it till you make it, some of that is really reframing the brain. It is about allowing the brain to have new cells that are, or new sparks that are now created in that neuronet to even imagine a new reality. This is a bubble of reality that we each are living in. And there are many bubble of realities that we can tap into. But which consciousness are we holding that is holding us in a specific sphere? If we were able to create the neuronet to understand that we were completely supported, that everything we needed, including the team, the finances, and all that was required could actually appear if we simply sat still and imagined it into our lives, could we believe that that was possible? It is only those that can believe that's possible that can create it. Because when you ask for it and you believe it, then you can achieve it and you can receive it. But it requires our belief and the faith in ourselves that we are that God spark that can create that new reality. And that's a big one, because we've been taught we're just these mere humans. But in actuality, we are God's walking. And until we're willing to accept that, we can't step through the doorway of true reality creation.
Amen. Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
I wanted to actually just make a comment on that, because and just comparing what Steve said and what Simran said. You know, I've been an astrologer for over 30 years, and there's something that I'm very aware of, which is cycles of life. And so sometimes what happens is, you know, when you are on the right cycle, and it's a very prosperous cycle, the nature of it is, you know, it's all about abundance. You know, if you have the right intention and if you work creatively, I mean, the whole universe is pouring blessings, you know, on you. I'm actually going through one of those now. It's pretty amazing. It's really magical, you know. I swear. It's really wonderful.
Tell us what it is.
Oh God, honestly, it's good stuff. Good stuff. I don't want to take time of our you know, show for that. But you know, it's really moments like, you know, Venus and Jupiter were together in the sky this week in a very rare conjunction, in a wonderful full moon. So it's extremely auspicious, you know, and so doors are opening, solutions are being met. And but one thing I was going to say is sometimes we have difficult moments. They exist, you know, they exist. And I would like to say, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not totally convinced that when you have a difficult transit, it's all creation of somebody's level of consciousness. Because I've seen like over thousands of charts that I've done that they also exist. But my perception is we always can work with those difficult moments and get, you know, going back to the, you know, to the initial theme of our show, you know, work the best we can. And sometimes there are little delays, and sometimes, you know, there's an experience of lack, but, you know, they're not ultimate realities. They are ways in which somehow we're almost like becoming a bit more maybe experienced, or we are letting go of stuff that doesn't serve us anymore, or, you know, there is a beauty behind it. There is, so in a way, there is a blessing, but it's a blessing in disguise, you know. So ultimately, the universe is all loving, it's true. But sometimes the blessings come in disguise, and, you know, we have to work our way through, and some other times, you know, they're more obvious. But, you know, yeah, I just would like to say that, because sometimes people get a bit sort of impatient or frustrated when they're going through the times that is, like the winters of our times, you know, like the winter, you go more inwards and you slow down a bit more. And you know, and it's not spring, it's not summer. So learning how to go also realize that there are flows in life. You know, it could also be very, very good in a process. And, you know, that's my perception.
I agree with you.
So what you're trying to say is, don't take life so seriously. Don't take life so seriously.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Susie, because the thing is, it's about the cycles. It is about the rhythms and the cycles, and I totally believe in astrology. I think where we throw it off is our personal will gets more important than divine will. Divine will would follow that astrology. Personal will would say, but I don't want what I've got right now. I want something different. And that's where we start pushing. And when we start pushing against what's the natural course, that's where we create struggle. And so when struggle gets creative, it makes it feel like discomfort. But when we stay present and we allow the natural rhythms, then the doors do open, and we allow the natural wisdom and everything to come in. And so it's, to me, the reality creation is part of all of that. And it's mostly about being present, because we will get the prompts as to when the divine auspicious times are, whether we are following the astrology or whether we're following our own intuition. But if we're constantly pushing for something that it is not time for, it can't possibly happen.
But isn't it also true that you ladies have a much more mastery about these cycles, because you're going through every month these cycles? The entire month, each and every month is a cycle for you, and you know much more about it than we men.
True. Very, very,
Hello.
yes, true. Yes, true.
With all the different emotions that they entail.
So we just.
I mean, I always thought that one of the best insights into how to understand women for men is to understand this cycle, and most men know nothing about it. It's like they just identify it as
thing. They'll turn around and say,
one thing that happens. One thing that happens in the month, and then don't bother her, but actually it's happening the entire month, every day.
Yes, we do change every day. We are known for that.
See, Steve, you could be, you know, designing programs for men and teaching them how to do that. That would be wonderful. We support that, right, ladies?
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely.
I think we could all give a little bit of how to take care of a man, or how to understand a man, and because we always seem to know when to say something and when not to say something, and we hold back, and you know, we do this little dance, so we always get our own way.
Exactly.
But it's like a dance. Well, dancing around the men's mind. And the men are dancing around the women too, so I guess we're both, you know, still
Yeah,
finding
well.
it hard to be together.
Okay, well, I'm not going to touch it anymore. So, all right, so final question of the evening, where is humanity headed? Where are we headed, Simran?
Simran, did you get that?
Did you hear me?
No, she didn't hear you.
I don't think she's hearing me.
She froze.
So, does somebody else want to take that one? How about you, Susie? Where is humanity headed?
I think humanity is heading towards a complete and deeply transformative process in which we will be called to be much more real with each other, to support each other because of the cycles that are coming our way that may not be as easy as we would like them to be, and yet they offer us this wonderful opportunity to become more real and to be more compassionate and to realize that planet Earth is a small circle and we're all one. And so the more we expand, the more we realize that we're here in the United States, but people from all over the world are connected to us right now. The air that we're breathing is the same. The water from the oceans, if we pollute the oceans, and the water is the same. The oceans are basically surrounding us. It's Mother Earth that is basically sustaining us. And so we need to move from personal to transpersonal. We need to maybe become less individual and more collective and more global, without losing our connection with who we are and our roots and people that are around us. So like being global, but being very present at the same time. It feels to me like the humanity is moving towards a big crisis, but crisis in Latin means opportunity.
Yeah.
Krios, it's opportunity. We've been faced, with one of the greatest opportunity we ever had to remind ourselves of our divine humanness, our God connection. I am very connected to the Mother, to the Divine Mother, so that we belong, that we are loved, and that we are channels of this love to others. So I think those are the potentials, and we're only going to make it if we hold hands and if we walk together. So my hope is that shows like this, and thank you so much, Steve, for being there for us, and holding this platform, that more people get called to join us in this big family, and that we just continue to radiate and expand and learn more and be more connected with our true selves. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That was awesome. So I don't know, Simran, is your audio back?
It is. It's back. Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. Great. So I forgot to say my short answer to the theme today, which is why do bad things happen? Because they do. So.
They do. It's okay.
I found that to be funny. Okay, obviously it's just only me, but that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so Simran, you were absolutely precious as always. There's a quality about you that's just as sweet as the sweetest chocolate I have ever had. You have a way to communicate where it's incredible clarity and very sophisticated. Thank you very much for being on the network. We love to have you, and we welcome you back anytime. Also, I want to say to Susie Verdi that thank you very much for being here and testing out how to be a cast member on Living Consciously. We're just doing an experimental program with several potential cast members. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I certainly have enjoyed you, and you also have this quality, since all of you are goddesses, you have this quality of really pinpointing sometimes exactly what it is that you feel that's important people to hear, and I love the level of clarity that you bring to the show. And Ninan, as always, our third goddess, you are light itself, and we keep talking about all these things and positivity, and you certainly are. I just want to make sure that everybody hears it. You certainly are one of the most positive people I have ever met in my life, and I didn't understand it at first, but I'm certainly coming around.
Steve, you're now becoming positive.
Well, I am changing the world. I'm changing the world just by changing myself. So there you go. So for everybody else out there, I hope you all enjoyed it as well, and we had the opportunity, all of us, to touch, move, and inspire you. And if we have done that, then we have done our job. And keep coming back to the network at ConsciousEvolutionMedia.com, as well as come and visit us on YouTube. We have over 1,500 shows on YouTube, and the more you watch them, the more they show up every month on our top 10 list. And if you make it to the top 10 list with one of the shows, then that has the potential to go to public television, over 100,000 eyeballs. We can't ask for more than that. So thank you so much for being here. We'll see you again next week. Love you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
A pleasure.